Did you know that Mahjong used to be so popular in the United States that it was Shanghai's sixth largest export to America? In fact, China even had to import cow bones all the way from Texas in order to keep up with production. How did Mahjong become so popular in the US and other parts of the world outside of China? Before we start, let's briefly discuss the origins of the game in its home country, China. The origins of Mahjong are murky. In the West, the game was commonly marketed as being thousands of years old, stretching all the way to the time of Confucius. Vogue magazine said that the game used to be only played among royals and mandarins, and anyone else caught playing would have their heads separated from their body. One French website even suggests the inventor to be Hong Xiuquan, the guy who claimed to be the brother of Jesus Christ and then started the Taiping Rebellion, one of the bloodiest wars in the world. In actuality, the origins of the game are probably more modest. Mahjong likely originated from the Chinese card game Mahjong. The first traces of Mahjong were mentioned in the 1870s when some foreigners described a species of dominoes being played in China. There are two main theories regarding where the game originated. Some say the city of Ningbo, while others say Fuzhou. However, there seems to be agreement that the game matured and grew popular in the cities of Shanghai and Ningbo, which were two cities with close cultural and economic links. In 1885, there were records by a Shanghainese newspaper, Shengbao, about a game called Mahjong popular in Jiaxing, which is near Shanghai. Due to Shanghai's status as a prominent port city, the game eventually spread to the rest of China and even to the rest of the world from there. By the early 1900s, the game had spread to the imperial capital of Beijing. People from all social classes, from servants and eunuchs, all the way to the Empress Dowager Cixi, were known to enjoy the game. Soon, intellectuals and reformers started thinking of ways to use the game to educate the public on the West, including carving the English alphabet, different systems of government, and even the latest technologies onto the tiles. There are even records of an anti-union official attempting to lower union membership by bribing workers with mahjong sets. Being a prominent port city in China, many foreigners who went to China passed by the city of Shanghai before going further inland into the country. Over there, they were quickly exposed to the game of mahjong. Even when expats tried to isolate themselves from the local culture, they found themselves introduced to the game and learned to adopt it. Mahjong actually helped build relationships between the foreign expats and the American-educated Chinese. One such foreigner who found himself intrigued by the game was Joseph Babcock, who was stationed in Suzhou and Shanghai. After realizing the potential of the game to be spread in the West, he introduced it to the wealthy who were vacationing in Catalina Island in California in 1920. He simplified some of the rules of Mahjong. The rules during this time have several notable differences from later versions of the game. In the classical Chinese version, everyone scores at the end of a round, regardless whether you win or not. In fact, it is possible for a non-winning player to score more points than the winning player. Before long, Mahjong became a hit in the United States. Even President Warren Harding and the First Lady played the game. Congress even had a tax law specifically targeting Mahjong sets. According to a New York Times article on May 1, 1924, a group of Chinese students were arrested for playing Mahjong in New York City. The judge later discharged them and wrote that playing Mahjong is not a crime, as almost everybody is playing it. As the demand for Mahjong sets increased, so did production in Shanghai. In fact, a cow bone shortage resulted and they had to import bones all the way from places like Galveston, Texas, in order to address the scarcity in China. By 1923, the value of bone imports into China were 2,000 times that of 2 years prior in 1921. It was not long that other companies began to notice the profitability of producing Mahjong sets. While Mahjong tiles were originally made from bone, marketers like to give off an impression of mystery, luxury, and exoticness associated with the game, so they often try to add connotations of ivory when introducing it. Other companies try to sell cheaper versions of Mahjong by making the tiles out of alternative materials such as plastic and cardboard. As the game became more popular in America, people started adding their own house rules to Mahjong. By the 1930s, so many house rules had been added that there were calls for standardization. In 1937, the National Mahjong League, NMJL, was founded to help with this. New features that were not present in the original Chinese game were standardized into the American version. One of these features was a Charleston, named after a popular dance in the 1920s, where players would exchange tiles with other players after shuffling them. Other features were implemented as well, such as allowing only pre-approved combinations that can win a round. Every year, the approved combinations are refreshed by the NMJL and the new combinations are printed on a card that has to be bought from the organization. Jokers were also brought in, which can take the place of tiles, leading to 5-of-a-kind combos, something not present in Chinese versions of Mahjong. Besides the US, Mahjong spread to other regions outside of China as well, such as the UK, Japan, and Southeast Asia. How was the response in the UK? According to the Great Mahjong book by Jelte Rep, the game became popular in the 1920s there, just like in the US. In fact, the book even claims that the British nobility were intrigued by Mahjong, and that Princess Mary was a fan of the game. Prince George was said to have played the game as well after the Queen gifted him a set. In Japan, we first see records of Mahjong in 1909 when a teacher, Nakawa Hikosak, brought back a set from China. However, it was not until after the Great Kanto earthquake that we see the game really start to explode in popularity in Japan, after a man named Saburo Hirayama established a Mahjong house in Tokyo. During World War II, the game was discouraged and its name was even changed. After World War II, the game reverted back to its original name, rebounded, and picked up its popularity, and the Riichi variant of Mahjong was established. The Riichi variant of Mahjong differs from other versions around the world in several ways. One of them is the addition of Dora, which allows a greater number of points if certain tiles are incorporated in a winning hand. Players can also declare Riichi, meaning their hands are only one tile away from winning, for a chance to gain more points. Mahjong also exists in other countries in Asia, such as Singapore and Vietnam. In Singaporean Mahjong, there are extra tiles with animals embedded on it, in addition to the flower tiles present in the Chinese version of the game. In Vietnam, there are Emperor and Empress tiles, as well as many different types of jokers present. These jokers have varying degrees of usefulness. Some can only stand for a single suit, while others can replace any tile. Where did all of these animals and joker tiles come from? One user on the social media platform Reddit, u/abisrara, notes that it might have spread there from the Chinese diaspora present in these regions. Mahjong might have spread to these places before its further evolution in China, which led to the elimination of these tiles in its home country. This might explain the presence of many unique tiles present in Southeast Asian versions of the game not found elsewhere in the world. As Mahjong spread around the world, people started adopting different rules. According to Sloperama, an excellent website for all things Mahjong related, Mahjong rules throughout China were pretty much the same in the early 1900s, no matter if you visit the south or north of the country. Most of the differences were just rules related to scoring. However, after World War II, Mahjong rules started to diverge in different regions throughout China and the world. Given all these different rules around the world, have there been any attempts at a world championship for Mahjong? The answer is yes. In October 2005, the World Mahjong Organization was established in China, and many countries joined. The organization has been holding the World Mahjong Championship every few years, with the most recent one being held in 2024 in Canada. There are many different combinations that are scored, more than the amounts in the Cantonese and Japanese variations of the game. There have also been World Series of Mahjong tournaments that were active several years ago. These tournaments are separate from the World Mahjong Organization. The last competition took place in 2015. All in all, these types of competitions allow players from all over the world, including countries from Asia, the Americas, and Europe, to gather and compete against each other. At the same time, these competitions have also demonstrated that Mahjong is not a game only for gambling, but is also a sport as well. Do you play Mahjong? If so, do you play with any interesting variations that you can't find anywhere else? Let me know in the comments below. If you made it to the end and enjoyed my video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me a lot.